To introduce myself, I'm Charis Marquez. I lead fashion. I'm the VP and General Manager for fashion at eBay. And I am super excited to be joined by these panelists. And what I think is really cool, and what I would love for you all to get out of this session, is that fashion is not just being a designer or being in marketing. There are so many different kinds of things that you can do to really be a part of the culture and really lead and drive fashion. So I think you're going to hear these stories, and that's really going to resonate to see that there are so many things that you can do within this industry, which I think is really cool. So today I have Darius Billings, Jessica Smith, Chris Dixon, and Angela Medlin. And I'm going to have each of them kind of talk a little bit more about what they do as well. So you want to start?
Yeah,
Darius?
so Darius Billings, I'm the VP of Marketing and Community Service or Community Engagement for the Athlete's Foot. We are a global company, so I handle all of North America and the Caribbean, and also sit on the global leadership team. And I oversee all the marketing functions.
Great. Thank you. Jessica?
Awesome. I am Jessica Smith. I'm CEO and founder of IE, which stands for Industry Education, and we are an apprenticeship network with leading corporations enabling diverse creatives to turn their dreams into meaningful careers. I am also a founder of SEED. I'm in my final year as a doctoral candidate at USC's Organizational Change and Leadership Program. Thank you. And lastly, but most importantly, I'm a mom of 2 fearless young boys.
Nice.
Wonderful. A boy mom, too. All right, Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Dixon. I'm a senior footwear designer for Timberland on our Advanced Concepts and Energy team. More so on the energy team with SMU, special makeups, collabs, and special projects. I'm also the creative director and founder of Constant Development, and it's a product, education, and experiential brand. We're focused on finding untapped talent and expanding the creative community. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
And Chris is going to let me hold that sweater for him.
This is actually one of my first collabs that just came out. We collaborated with Nina Chanel, Abney, a contemporary artist. So this is a special day to wear this.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That it is. Angela.
My name is Angela Medlin. I am an apparel design leader and mentor in the industry for 30 plus years. I am also the founder of 2 businesses, House Dog, a sustainable lifestyle brand for dogs and their people, and Phase Design, the functional apparel and accessory studio, where I get to work with people like you. I have a passion for developing designers and other creatives.
Wonderful. So as you can see, there is a plethora of experience here. So can't wait to hear from you guys. Let's jump into it. All right. So let's talk about how many times did it take you to find a job or passion that you enjoyed? And what did that journey look like? Maybe I'll start with Chris.
Wow. It took me one time. And the reason why is I took my time. I kind of reverse engineered my pathway. I jumped right into entrepreneurship as a novice. I didn't know much, but I jumped in the water with the sharks. And, I got bit a few times, and that helped me learn my lessons. And, unfortunately, I took the back roads. And the back roads is pretty steady. It's not like the highway where it's a lot of busyness. And on those back roads, I had a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dwayne Edwards to say, hey, I know where you're going, follow me. So, taking that path and understanding, hey, it's not gonna be short, you're not gonna get there quick. But I had the opportunity to work up under him and understand all the different brands and what they did and how they worked, and also gain the understanding of giving and learning passion first. And that that just gave me like a whole new like outlook on where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be, and how I got there. So honestly, you know, just being patient and being a person that gave others opportunities before I took mine. And, you know a lot of people are like, why Timberland? And at the time, I never dreamed to be, I wanted to be Nike like everybody else, but Nike wasn't for me, you know? I wanted to be in a place where I can have impact and do what I really wanted to do, which was, serve my people, because I didn't know about this job until I was 26. So if I can do both, then I'm really living my purpose and I'm living my dream at the same time. And Timberland was that place. So that's why I chose, that particular place.
You left us with a lot there. Jessica, so you're in a pivot somewhat right now. So
Yes.
yeah, kind of talk to us about passion and.
Yeah, definitely. I think passion was a word you hit on that really resonates. I think that there's so much pressure right now for those entering into the workforce to have it right and have it perfect right away. And I think that you didn't talk about a role, you didn't talk about a title, you didn't talk about compensation, and I think we can get really segued from our path and our purpose by those things. And if I looked back at my 17-year-old self, I would have never known that each of the jobs and the roles that I've had leading to this place today even existed. So I've been remixing my whole life. I grew up in a one stoplight town as the only Black person in that community. And when I outgrew that community, I went to Los Angeles and went from a underprivileged education system to one of the top education schools. And while I cried every day during that experience, I learned and I grew, and I kept pushing myself once I kind of outgrew an environment to move forward. I went from there to DC. I'd never been to DC when I left and went to Georgetown. Shout out to DC, one of my favorite cities. Educational equity has always been my passion. It is my purpose. It is my thing. And so, I started out, unfortunately, graduating in the midst of a recession. So for those of you who are struggling right now because of the economy, just stay the course and know that you're going to be okay. And honestly, closed doors can be a blessing. And so while I had trained to become a secondary English teacher and came out with a nationwide hiring freeze for all incoming teachers, it pushed me to go into higher education. And I fell in love with that intersection of individuals moving from their education to their career journey. That propelled me into corporate America, where I led early career in university relations and eventually outgrew that space and stepped out on my own recently. And so I would just say, when you're in it now, you might not be able to see 5, 10, 15 years down the line. All you need to see is what is that next step. And when you look back, there will be a beautiful red thread that makes a lot of sense to you. But just, I would say, trust yourself and give yourself a little grace.
Yep, bet on yourself for sure.
Right on.
Darius, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm like Chris. I always knew that I wanted to be in marketing. Actually, shout out to Howard University, DC, HBCU. But I started out in accounting, but first semester, nah,
Didn't
it
work.
wasn't for me. So switched to marketing. So I always knew I wanted to stay in marketing. So I was fortunate enough to land my first job out of college with Nike, in visual merchandising. So I started there, and then stayed there for a few years and thought that I could do more, because that was entry level, and I could do more with other companies. So moved around went from Nike to And1 basketball at the time. And, it does take a lot of time. It's a big journey. And this is a great homecoming, and I've seen former colleagues I haven't seen in 20 years. So this is definitely a wonderful platform. But from there, I left the industry and went to custom rim for your cars.
Okay.
So if anybody remembers the spinning rims that they used to call Spreewells, he had nothing to do with it. He was a customer It was us. It was Dobbin Wheels, and we were the only black wheel manufacturer in the industry. And the designer or the creator of Dobbin Wheels was a sneaker designer. So we actually approached wheels like they were sneakers for cars. So I was always still like in the industry, but applying it to the wheel and car industry. Did that for about 5 years, and then end up selling the brand to a larger wheel manufacturer. So really getting back into this space that I truly loved and had a passion for. So I've been with the Athlete's Foot now for 15 years. So it does take time. It's not something that is an overnight journey. So it's something that is the time. Like you said, you'll look back and you see that journey and all the people that you meet, everybody from in here that you'll meet along the way to help you along that journey. So that's how I ended up where I am today. And
Yeah.
so.
I think it's a great example also of, translating this industry into something
Yeah.
else. This industry sets the tone for so much. I mean, I know even in eBay, with sneakers in the footwear industry starts, we launch something there and then we launch it in our other fashion categories. So it really does drive a lot of culture. So I think you brought up a great example of how it's not even just about what you're doing right now, you can also translate it into other things as well. Angela, how about you?
So I'll just start out saying when I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, but I knew I was creative. I too came from a small town. I had 2 stoplights. But I was only told I could be one thing, and that was an art teacher. And so I spent a lot of time, once I left that small town, trying to figure out all the other things that I could be. And even when I was in college and I graduated, I still had no idea what I could do with a textile and illustration degree. And so I went around to every possible creative person that I was either told about or I had met and interviewed them to figure out what I wanted to do or where I fit. And I passed around so many personal portfolios because I personalized every single portfolio I gave to someone, that in a year's time, people were calling me. So small company called Cross Colors was the first one. And then Adidas called a week later. And I had to make a choice between Adidas and Cross Colors. And so I ended up at Cross Colors. And that was the best first experience I could have in the apparel industry, because the company looked like this audience. And it was the only experience that I had where the company looked like this audience. But from there, I took all of the knowledge that I had accumulated so far and started, asking more questions, like what else can I do? And I was hired by Peter Moore to come to Adidas after all. And from there, I just moved through the athletic and outdoor industry, just exploring and finding parts of the job that I enjoyed. And once I got what I needed out of that, I moved on. So my enjoyment came from just changing and exploring what else was in the industry for me.
Great. It's a journey, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a
It
journey.
really is. Excellent. All right, let's jump into another one. This one's a little more challenging. Let's see. How do you handle moments of self-doubt or setbacks during this journey? So we've all kind of talked about some journeys, but it's not all roses.
Not at all.
Do you want to, or does anybody want to jump in, or you want to start, Darius?
I'll start. I think one, you got to be vulnerable. Like I have a village. Like I have friends and family that is super supportive, but you have to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I need help, or hey, I don't know if this is right for me, if I'm doing this right. So I think it definitely takes a village of people and friends and support systems but you have to be vulnerable enough to say that you need help or you have some doubt. So I think your support system is key.
Yes.
I think I would say that there hasn't been much room for self-doubt in my pivots because there were a lot of people around me doubting my ability to pivot every time. And my pivots were quite different. I mean, moving from working on leadership development and higher education to then moving to Nike, I mean, I had to take a step down from a full-time associate director role to a contract ETW role just to prove that I could do the role and to move into the corporate space. And so I had to have a lot of confidence. And similarly, then when I was at Adidas and I had worked in talent for a really long time, working with the chief HR team globally, I developed a muscle around strategic planning and execution and organizational transformation. And when they announced that basketball was moving to LA, I come from a basketball family. I was in the same role for 5 years, and I said, you know, that's something that I think I can contribute to and be really passionate about. But I don't have strategic planner on my background. And so doubt was not something that I could give space for. And even most recently, when I left corporate after 15 years to start my own venture, I would say if confidence is something that you struggle with, I think confidence really unleashes potential. And so I'd really work on building that muscle. And something that I do to help myself feel confident in those moments is to think about all of my toolkit and all of my skills and all of the experience that I have that have readied me for that next opportunity and that next moment. Maybe the title wasn't the same, maybe the organization wasn't the same, but for example, with this pivot into entrepreneurship, I've been practicing entrepreneurship for the last 15 years, maybe in a brand, maybe supporting other entrepreneurs, but knowing that I was ready for that moment. So I would say when doubt creeps in, just trust your skill set, the work ethic, and the time that you've put in, and know that you're ready for the moment.
Great.
Right on.
Yeah.
I can jump in as well. I mean, Darius said it. You know, having a good support system is key. It's vital. You know, people that has taken the journey before you, and you can go and ask for advice. But I think the most important thing is just being humble. Having humility, knowing that you're not going to get it right the first time. It's going to take multiple times to get it right, and then understanding, being a good listener, and also filtering the advice that you get. All advice is not for you directly, but you can filter that to kind of build what you need to go, make that step forward. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I like it. I think a lot of self-doubt comes from the outside. It's when we think everybody else has the answer, and we're the only one in the room who doesn't.
Yes.
So that was one of the reasons why I started Face Design, is because when I started in the industry, I was one of those people. I had a lot to learn, and I didn't have the rule book that I thought everyone else had. So I asked a lot of questions. I was annoying as hell in some cases, but I was hungry for the information, and all of that has been put together in the last 30 years so that I can give it away to somebody else. And so, yeah, no one has the answer for everything. So just, don't even put that weight on yourself to create that self-doubt.
Great. And I think there is also a theme that we've heard kind of throughout this session just around the people around you, positive or negative. So really looking at your environment, who you reach out to from on the positive side, but also, on the constructive side, do you have the right support system, I think is what people are really bringing up here, because it is important. And as much as a lot of us think we can do it all on our own, we can't. We do need other people, even to give us a chance in a lot of ways. So I think you guys have shown that. So let's see. A lot of good questions here. We talked about self-doubt. We talked about passion. How do you embrace change and reinvention without losing yourself? So I'm going to start with you, Angela, on this one.
I love change.
Me too.
I love change because every time I shift gears, I'm more than likely going into something that I've never done before, but I'm curious and I'm hungry. I'm a problem solver by nature. So I go in and I learn, and I love learning. It's not always easy. You know, we like our comfort zone, and sometimes getting outside of that comfort zone is painful. But that's how you learn. You have to earn your marks sometime. And as an entrepreneur, you do a lot of learning. You're never in your comfort zone. But it's worth it, because if you're doing what's authentic to you, it's not as painful as if you're doing something you don't like for somebody else. You know, you're going through learning pain, which is different from discomfort of doing something that you aren't aligned with. So, yeah.
Great. I think, Jessica, you've talked about your embracing of change as well. Why don't you, you want to talk more about that?
There's a lot of talk around authenticity and be your authentic self. I think that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I would also say we have the most generations in the workforce at one time right now with very different values and operating systems. But for me, authentic leadership, because you talked about how do you not lose your way in the midst of change. And so the way that I stay true to myself is being really clear on my goal and keeping that front of mind. And sometimes I might have to adjust what I say or how I approach certain things on behalf of that greater goal. But if I keep that really front of mind, then it really is my compass.
Great. Chris, anything to add?
I don't see no other way just being yourself. And change is nature, right? We have seasons. And honestly, my life has just been that way, being an Army brat, moving from place to place. And I've gotten used to that. I've been a chameleon. And, you know, right now in this present moment, like, living in New Hampshire, every time I say I live in New Hampshire, everybody like, what? New Hampshire?
That's what I did.
You know, and I never thought about living in New Hampshire. I didn't even know New Hampshire was a state sometimes. Like, is it? But living there is so much different from Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I'm from. And that's good because I was able to look at life a little bit different, like looking at nature a different way, finding peace and knowing what peace is, you know, when we're so busy and always busy, taking the time to just go for a walk and looking at the birds, you know what I mean? Like, those things bring change of scenery, brings something different in your life that you just have to embrace. And like you guys were saying about comfort, if you plan to grow and, you know, get to that next level, comfort ain't it. You gotta stay uncomfortable because that's the only way you're gonna grow. And I know it's a lot of people that just think you're gonna just get on this zip line and, you know, have fun to your success, but it's more like a hike. You know, you gotta put that backpack on, you gotta pack some snacks, you gotta stay hydrated, you know what I mean?
Some repellent.
Some repellent, that's for the haters, you know, you're gonna have those, the mosquitoes and gnats. And you gotta just like be present. And you know, when you get to those levels, you enjoy and be present in the scene and take it in, refuel and keep going. And you know, that's change. You know, every terrain is different. So we gotta embrace that, even as like Black people in this culture. Like we always talk about hip hop and like the 90s and the golden age, and the older people were like starting to embrace the new generation. And I think it's the same within like art and design. Like, we have to be able to, you know, embrace the change from the new generation. And, you know, that's gonna help us as well. I don't wanna rant, but this is a good topic just because I know a lot of people that are in their home state think they can get it done there.
Yeah.
And you have to get uncomfortable and get outside of, you know, where you live and what's comfortable to get to your goals.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Nah, I think change is definitely a good thing, and I think with you guys coming from small towns, I also came from a small town of Clarksburg, West Virginia, so there are black people in West Virginia. But I'm in Atlanta now, so it's all good. But some people don't know, like the Athlete's Foot been around since 1971. It's had its up and downs, different ownerships. I've been with the brand since 2008, and I'm on my 4th ownership of the brand, and I'm still there. And I didn't have to change who I was, and that's the thing, it's like being your authentic self and making sure that you bring value, because if you bring value, then like nobody can say anything.
Yeah.
So started out publicly traded company, then private equity, then a Swiss company bought the Athlete's Foot. So I had to move out to Switzerland for 8 months. So we talked about being a unicorn.
Yeah.
Like I was a straight unicorn out there. Now we have a new owner of the brand over the last couple years. But I stayed authentic and brought my value to the company, and that's why I'm still there, and a lot of people are not. So change is something that's good. It helps you grow as an individual as well. So embrace it.
Great. I think there's been a lot of advice sprinkled in, but if you had to give one piece of advice to this audience, what would it be? Start back with you, Darius.
Reinventing, I know this is about the pivot and reinventing. That doesn't mean necessarily changing. It just means growing for me. Adding new tools to your toolbox because you just don't want to be a one tool kind of person, and when you open your toolbox, it's just one tool. Have these different tools. So pivot is a great thing, and it's about learning and growing. Like I'm in a 12-week masterclass for leadership right now. I know I'm probably going to take something on AI because AI is this new thing that, just so I can get a grasp of, how it can help me and help our business. So always embrace like learning and don't think that reinventing yourself means you got to do a whole, like a 180.
Yeah.
It's just adding tools to your toolbox.
Great.
Advice, I would say start. If you have a burning passion inside of you, really pursue it and just step out. A year ago, I was sitting on this stage as a corporate employee, and a lot can happen in a year, and I'm really excited and proud to kind of take that step. And I think the second piece, the part 2 of this, is really understand the environment that is needed to grow your passion or that seed that's burning inside of you. And not all environments are going to nurture it and allow you to realize and bring it to fruition. And so know when it's time to change your environment so that you can bring to life the next version of yourself or what you want to bring into the world.
Excellent. Chris?
Man, honestly, I would definitely want to tell everybody in here to find purpose. Find purpose of why you're here and what you're doing with your time currency. Because time currency is the only currency that you can't get refunded. And the time that you put into people, the time that you put into yourself, or the time that you put into junk is going to affect you tomorrow. So find the purpose of, what you put your time into and the people you put your time into, because it's either going to help you or it's going to hurt you. And for me, I've been able to put time currency into a lot of people that I believed in to see the glow in them, and I get to reap that and seeing them like sprout and turn into beautiful people. And that part is something that I've grown an addiction for. And it's a good addiction because it keeps on giving. We get to see the things that, we water. You plant a seed and you get to water it, and then you get to see it grow, and then it plants fruit, and then everybody gets to enjoy that. So don't want to be long-winded, but purpose is everything that we do, because it fulfills something that when a design comes out, that feeling is 15 minutes and then it's back to work. But a living thing that you put your time into, that thing keeps growing. It keeps going, and eventually, those good deeds will follow into another person, and it'll keep happening. So that's my advice, and honestly, be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself nice.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah. Respect yourself, and those things are follow from other people.
Excellent.
I would say be a creative problem solver. If something doesn't exist, then figure out how you can be that person to create that thing that's needed. And I think that's what we're here for. We're designers. We solve problems for everybody, every day. And so you have to do that for yourself. You're sitting in one of the biggest pivots I've ever experienced right here. This didn't exist and it exists now. So that's an example of being a problem solver. So
Excellent.
do that.
Well, a lot of great information. Huge thank you to each of our panelists. And we are going to open it up for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for anyone on the panel, there was a lot of good stuff dropped, so I'm sure there's plenty of questions. Over in the corner.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Anetta.
Hi, Annette.
Thank you for doing this panel. I learned so much from you all. My question is, how do you remain positive and grounded in the act of service where you know your worth, but it appears everyone that you have served is surpassing you?
I can take that. Being a part of Penso for 4 years and being under Dwayne and seeing his leadership, I always wondered why are you just so giving? Once you get back into, because you still got the skills. Once you get back into it, and it's just seeing what was coming back to him. He always said it a step ahead. And then I kind of started seeing that within myself of just I started feeling like that. Man, everybody that I'm helping is way past me. But then it's just it's me versus me. It has nothing to do with anybody else. The service that you give is going to come back tenfold. And that's what you have to realize. You're not in a race, it's a marathon for sure. And what you give is going to surpass what you really receive. So I wouldn't compare yourself to anyone else when you have your personal goals and your personal issues that no one else knows about or has themselves. So yeah, just me versus me.
The one thing I'd add to that, I think it's spot on, is someone said it yesterday, that no one can take from you what is for you. And so, and we also said on the stage that you really have to kind of block out the noise and really charter your own path and be gentle with yourself on the timeline that it's going to take. And so when we look outside, the measures of success are going to really create anxiety and overwhelm us. But if you just go internal and sit with your purpose and your passion, and know that whether it takes you another 12 months or 24 months or 5 years, it's going to be there waiting for you when you're ready for it.
Solid.
Hello, my name is Chelsea B. I just want to say thank you all so much for being on this panel. It was very insightful and super inspiring. My question is specific to Angela and Jessica. Both of your stories resonate with me so much, just forging your own path. But I wanted to ask, in terms of entrepreneurship, what was that one moment or moments that in your entrepreneurship career where you felt like, wow, I've hit a good stride and I'm actually doing this thing?
Okay, so I was in the industry corporate apparel industry for 25 years. And when I was at the end of that 25 years, I was the design director for Jordan Apparel. And, you know, everyone thinks that that's like the pinnacle of anybody's career, especially being a person of color. But something was pulling me to do more. And so that's why I became an entrepreneur. But what really sealed the deal for me that I was doing the right thing is that everything started to fall into place. Like, I was meeting all the people I needed to meet. If I thought of something I needed, it would show up.
Yeah.
And 2 years into starting the product-based business, I had said in the beginning of it, I told Dwayne this, I showed him my first product, and I said, I want to be on Oprah's Favorite Things. And 2 years in, I was on Oprah's Favorite Things.
Yeah.
So I think you have to trust your instinct and just, you know, move in that direction. And if something feels right, it probably is. If it feels wrong, it probably is. So, and yeah, you just have to go in that direction that feels right for you. That's all you can do. Is you can't know any more than that. You can ask a lot of questions about business and how things work. No one's going to have a perfect answer for you because it's going to be different for everyone. But yeah, as long as it feels good, it feels right, and you're getting things done, just keep moving.
I would say I loved being an entrepreneur. Like, I would have gladly stayed in a big ecosystem and used other people's resources and money to do things I was passionate about. That was great. But some of you may have been in the breakout session with Deja, who is a SEED alum, or maybe you've heard Elia, who was here last year. Any of the SEED students, we've had 20 BIPOC women go through the SEED program in 4 years at Adidas, and that, it's chilling. Like, you talked about watching people transform, and when you see what you've created enable other people to walk into their dreams and their destinies, it's just chilling. And so as I sat there listening to Deja yesterday, I was like, oh, I can't wait till there are thousands of Dejas. And I knew that I had to be an entrepreneur in order to grow my dream as big as it could be. And that transition is a scary one. Going 6 months without an income is like, I realize why there's not diversity in entrepreneurship consistently, because we don't have the ecosystem around us to support us figuring out how to do that. And yes, I planned for a year before, trying to have my business plan together and get a starter client or a range of starter clients, but nothing really prepares you for that immediate gap. But I think you have to follow the piece that covers your decision making and trust that it's going to come to fruition. So I'm only a year in to full-time entrepreneurship, but it feels really good. And I remember Dwayne asking me as soon as I left, like, how does it feel? And I was like, it feels free. And free feels really good.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for this fascinating panel. You all have dropped so many gems, and shout out to all the people representing small towns. I'm from a small town, 12 light. Okay, so we were balling. But I think that brings up a question that I have around infrastructure, right? So we know in small cities, there is no infrastructure, right? I'm from Atlanta, and I'm gonna say some ugly words, right? The Black Mecca of the entire United States. We are one of, I'm gonna be respectful and say we are one of the epicenters of creativity, culture, and content. And we have zero infrastructure, right? So what I'd like to do, to know a little bit more about, is for those of you, as you were coming up in your journey, where did you find infrastructure when it didn't exist? And for those of you that have been so adamant into creating infrastructure, what has been your approach and what have you really prioritized as you've gone along that journey?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Go for it.
I'll be really quick. I think the first thing is that you have to find people who are aligned and believe in the same dream that you have. And that's the beginning of something bigger. I didn't even know what a mentor was, but when I was in college, I had one professor who was my mentor, and she helped me become that. I call myself a problem solver. She was the original problem solver for me. And she helped me figure out that if there is something that I need, more than likely other people need the same thing. And so everything that I would do to build something that didn't exist, it came from talking to people that also believed that that thing was missing and needed to exist. So yeah, just find your people.
Are you in Atlanta now?
I'm in Atlanta, and my question is, I probably should have been more specific. I've been in brand marketing for the last 25 years, so this is not what I need. What I'm seeing is the African American team, like I mentioned the company, there are several African American male marketing teams in Atlanta that have zero representation. Not only on the male, but on the African American male side and on the African American side at all.
Right.
Right? And so as we're talking about like Black creativity and being able to amplify that, where are these young people going? I'm actually creating the first ever social impact entertainment lab to help creators find that, but I wanted to understand from you all, where did you find it when it was so easily accessible?
Yeah, for me, like you said, Atlanta right now is the Mecca, and there are a couple places that I utilize, especially on the agency or creative side. One is, are you familiar with like Cam Kirk and the Collective Gallery? So Cam Kirk is a world-renowned photographer, mostly every hip-hop artist in the Southeast, but he also started an agency for creatives in Atlanta to give. So when we do our photo shoots, we do it with Cam Kirk, and sometimes he's not shooting, but he'll get an up-and-coming African-American photographer. We've had African-American female photographers do our photo shoots. We've had male, all under his agency, Collective Gallery. So I was able to find him and work with him in his agency. Also, there's a center there called the Russell Center. H.J. Russell is the commercial real estate. He pretty much created Atlanta. So there's the Rice Center, which is an incubation center for African-American entrepreneurship. So I even hold meetings and stuff there to really support that center. So I think there are places, especially in Atlanta, there are places that do it. I don't know about other cities and stuff, but in Atlanta, I've definitely found some and utilize and support any African-American business I can.
I know me being like a hybrid, so I have my own business and I'm also in a corporate brand. But when we set out to do this partnership, in my terms, I said when we do these workshops, all our vendors will be Black and brown. So it's kind of like pulling each other up when we get a big opportunity to pull your brothers and sisters in too. So I think that's important for all of us to kind of just understand, like, we do have the voice of like getting the things that we want, and that was one of the things I felt that was important to make it authentic too, was just to have vendors that was going to be supported just like I was. Yeah.
And if you can't find Black-owned vendors to deliver exactly what you need, I think you hit it, which is pressing the agencies that you do work with to hire freelancers to deliver against that, because maybe they don't own their own agency that can partner with you, but they're definitely, I feel like, creatives in the space who are ready to step into the opportunity and just haven't had the platform.
Great. Oh, do we have time for, okay.
Hello, my name is Blake Gibbons. I work with Crocs out in Colorado. Met Chris yesterday. And so first of all, thank you all for the time and taking this out to speak with all of us. And I love what you just said, Jessica, because I actually was a former consultant for brands back in the day. And it was always very interesting when I would get a black brand. And so kind of what because I loved it. And it was like, because it's like meeting your cousin and you're like, I'm going to help you be a big success. And so I will say to those of you looking, like sometimes if you are looking at those white agencies, go look at that little staff page and see who's in there. Because it may look like it's all white on the front, but you may get to the back and realize, wait, there may only be 2 black or brown people, but if you contact one of them, the likelihood, at least from what I saw, that they will get back in touch with you is quite high. So like to the lady who spoke before, I would definitely advise that. But my question, I have one thing for Ms. Marquez. We at my business actually have an eBay account. So I want to talk to you about maybe doing a little bit more with our marketing if we can off to the side after this.
Sure.
So definitely appreciate that. My 2 questions are actually just kind of about pivoting in general. So working for a bigger brand, oftentimes we have the opportunity to help out smaller designers, but oftentimes I found when I was in the consulting world and assisting some of our black businesses, there's a big hesitancy to get to that jump to make that, get to that bigger brand, for obvious reasons of, fear of their product being stolen, fear of their ideas being stolen. And so kind of how did people work with you all, I guess, to kind of help build that trust within you? And how did you all work with other designers, creators, to help build that trust with them, to help them understand, hey, I'm here to help guide you and, get you to that point? And then my next one is kind of how do you narrow the goal of the pivot? Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, but just how do you narrow the goal?
He's like, question 1C.
Yeah. But that was it, so thank you all.
Okay. So in terms of working with businesses, I mean, I'll speak on my end. Before I was with eBay, I was with Levi's, so I did work with quite a few creatives. And as a person who is not creative in this sense, I think the biggest thing that when I personally worked with creatives is understanding that we want to bring your authenticity and all of the creative license that you have, but we also want to make money too. And sometimes there are little tweaks that you can make that you can still make it translatable for someone who wants to bring it in and still show that creative vibe. So it's obviously a negotiation, but ultimately, if you want that audience and you want to work with a big brand, then you want to expose your stuff to a broader sense of people. So sometimes it's not about, again, just all the things we're talking with authenticity. It's not about dampening your light. It's making sure that we're showing that light in the right way. So really just not thinking, oh, well, they didn't want this or they didn't want that. And I have some very interesting examples that this group would love to probably hear about that I probably can't say that's recorded. But but I do think that, there's plenty of space and everybody, and the corporate world does want creatives. But I think there are a lot of, very strict corporate people who are scared about dampening that light, so they go with the people they know that they can just negotiate on the deal with versus I would just say have the openness to saying, okay, maybe it's not everything that's not the exact thing that I brought, but that there might have to be a few tweaks to really get it in front of the audience. I mean, ultimately, you want to get your stuff in front of the audience. So I'll let the actual creatives respond, though, on the opposite end.
I'm not the creative. I'm in retail.
Right, me too. So
I don't know.
you don't know. They just let you do what you want to do, huh?
Honestly, you just gotta you compromise. I don't like that word, but meeting in the middle. Mm-hmm. You have these big ideas, and sometimes you gotta scale it down so it can make sense to the number. What can be done, and I think all of us have big ideas, but then you gotta definitely meet in the middle when you're working with a corporate company, because they got, like you said, they trying to make money as well, and I'm a nano, I'm the little guy, so my big idea is like, oh, is that gonna reach the amount of people that we're expecting to reach, and sometimes it's just like you gotta accept it, and build that brick one by one, because it's a win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that. When you're working for a corporate company, you have to understand that everything you do, they own. Like, this is not art. You know, you get to keep the art, but when you design, it's for a client always. And so the best way, if you're internal, the best way to get your idea through is to align with what they want their outcome to be financially. So if what you're creating is going to get them there, you have a better chance of getting your product through.
Okay, I think we are out of time, but huge thank you to these panelists. I learned a ton myself today, so thank you all so much. Let's give a big hand.